Well, hello there. Yashika B. Martin here, and welcome to my segment of Channeling Hope, where I hope to inspire, motivate, and encourage you to bridge the gap between your intentions and your actions. So let's get started. Our topic, effective apology. Now, today's segment may look a little different than normal, as I'm going to approach this topic from a book that I read about 3 years ago, titled Effective Apology by John Cador. And not only do I agree with the author's perspective on apology, I also have put theory into practice. And I'm hoping that I can share a few tidbits with you so that you can take action in your life. Now, the book's premise is based on the idea that an apology indicates that you honor a relationship and you want to repair the damage to or reconcile that relationship. And the author surmises that in order to do so effectively, your apology must include the 5 R's: recognition, responsibility, remorse, restitution, and repetition. Now let me break down those 5 for you. The first R, recognition. This acknowledges the offense. This may seem like a simple step. However, think back to your most recent apology. Can you actually say that you acknowledge the impact that your actions had on the offended party? In the book, the author provides a really simple example to illustrate the concept of recognition. He gives the example of stepping on someone's toe. You step on someone's toe and you merely say, "Hey, sorry about that," versus stepping on someone's toe and saying, "Hey, sorry I stepped on your toe." The latter clearly acknowledges the offense that was had. In an apology, or when the apology can be the most effective, is going to be when all parties can agree on the facts relating to the offense. So think about recognition as the on the record or for the record R. The next R, responsibility. So where recognition acknowledges what the violation or offense was, this step establishes that the offender takes responsibility for that offense or violation. Now, let me know if you can relate to this scenario. You arrive late to an event that was important to someone you care for. You eventually get there and you start your apology. "Hey, sorry I'm late. I planned to be here on time, but the traffic on the interstate was backed up all the way to the exit. And by the time I got to the exit, it seemed like I hit every single red light on the way here." Now, does that really sound like someone taking responsibility in that apology? Or did it sound more like they were trying not to be blamed for the offense that they had? When we give an apology, we want to make sure that we clearly state the conduct for which we're taking responsibility. "Hey, I apologize for being late. I should have planned to leave at a time that regardless of what obstacles popped up, it would not have impact my time of arrival." Now that's taking responsibility. Our next R, remorse. So remorse is a way that the offender can show contrition. Ultimately, remorse is that feeling you get when you realize that an action you did had some kind of negative impact or hurt someone, and you really wish that you could undo what you did. In the book, the author shares that it is difficult to discern whether or not someone is experiencing remorse. Therefore, we typically will rely on nonverbal and verbal cues. And although body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice can be indicative of remorse, it can also be misinterpreted. Therefore, using the words "I'm sorry" or "I apologize" is non-negotiable if you want to offer an effective apology. So we've covered recognition, responsibility, and remorse. We got 2 more R's. The next R, restitution. Now, restitution is a practical attempt at repairing the relationship to where it was before it was broken. An effective apology is more than words. Therefore, it must include some element of action. You stated what you did wrong. You took responsibility for it. You said, "I'm sorry." So what are you going to do about it? When it comes to restitution, the author says that the offended party simply wants three things. One, they want to be made whole again. Two, they want some sense of sacrifice from the offender. And three, they want a commitment to the relationship. Bottom line, without restitution, it can make it difficult for the offended party to accept an apology. And our last R is repetition. Now, repetition is barely a measurement of assurance to the offender that you will not repeat the identified behavior, or at least try not to. And it also states in the book that this is the step that you usually want to throw in last when it comes to an apology, merely because communication theory suggests that people will best remember the last thing they heard. And one thing you really need to note is that this step is also the most difficult, because even if your intent is genuine, it's actually difficult to make good on the promise. The promise requires a commitment to new values, to understanding that it may take multiple attempts to remedy the mishap. So when you offer the promise to try not to repeat a behavior, be sure you're willing to put in the work to meet that goal. I also want to include that the author does not imply that all 5 R's have to be present in every apology. If you have about 3 of them in there, you probably have a pretty good apology. However, the higher the stakes, the more you want to make sure all 5 are incorporated. Also, one dimension of the R's is not more important than the other. Therefore, it doesn't matter which order you put them in the apology. You can start with restitution and end with responsibility. There is no hierarchy. Okay, so this is usually the part where I give you 3 action items, 3 perspectives, or 3 concepts. However, today I want to give you 3 areas in which we typically will overlook when it comes to an apology. The first area is when we offer an apology, it is inconsiderate to ask for forgiveness. Forgiveness is a gift from the offended. When you ask for forgiveness, you're making it about yourself and your need to be vindicated. Just because you're ready to move on doesn't mean that the offended party has to move at your pace. So be considerate. Allow them time to consider your apology and decide if they want to offer forgiveness. Another thing that we tend to overlook when it comes to an apology is accepting an apology. The author indicated that we will often accept an apology dismissively. Oh, don't worry about it. It wasn't a big deal. There's nothing to even apologize for. Always remember that you do not have to offer a response of acceptance the moment the apology is given to you. Understand that the concept is when you accept an apology, you are saying that you as the offended will no longer carry the hurt and anger. So take your time, because if you genuinely accept the apology, you really shouldn't bring it up ever again. And the last thing I want to share that we typically will overlook is rejecting an apology. Now, although rejection of an apology is not very common, when it happens, it can render a relationship over. So whether you feel like the apology was self-serving or maybe you just don't want to continue with the relationship, I encourage each and every one of us to ask ourselves this question. Am I rejecting this apology because I want to sever the relationship, or is a better apology what I actually want? Whatever you do, you don't want to regret your decision. So take your time and process. Okay, guys, in the spirit of communication theory, which suggests that we remember best the last thing we heard, I want to leave you guys with these 2 points. If you are the offender, when you offer an apology, you're saying that you are hoping for reconciliation. So honor that relationship by giving the apology without expectation of acceptance. If your apology is genuine and effective, the acceptance or rejection of it should not play into whether or not you give it. And if you are the offended, Be mindful that when someone offers you an effective apology, it takes courage to own up to hurting someone. So even if you don't think the apology is necessary, don't diminish the effort. Take the time to listen. Recognition, responsibility, remorse, restitution, and repetition. Apologies. We hope to not have to give them, but when you do, make it effective. I thank you guys for listening. If you like this video, please go ahead and hit that like button. Also hit the subscribe button. Continue to channel your hope, and remember that choice is freedom and decision is power.